Hi and welcome to our PowerPoint on writing instructions. This PowerPoint is designed to give you some basic information on how to write instructions. There's more information obviously in your textbook on instructions, but this should give you some preliminary starting points. These are the key points of the PowerPoint. First, that you want to think about your audience. You know that to be true for every technical document you write. That's the first thing you do. Second, you should know that if somebody gets hurt following your instructions, they can sue you as well as the company that published the instructions. They can sue you personally, and so it's very important that you are aware of that and write your instructions very carefully. And that also is why instructions carry the highest ethical weight for accuracy, meaning that it's possible that people could get hurt or harmed, and so it's ethically important that your instructions be as clear and correct as possible. As with all technical documents, clarity and conciseness are essential, and you have to follow the correct format. You want to use short sentences that begin with active verbs, phrase instructions in the affirmative, and not leave steps out no matter how small. And we're going to go over these points one by one. As with any technical document, you've got to consider your audience first. If they need instructions in the first place, your audience may be made up of lay people, which we know are people who are non-technical readers. On the other hand, what you may have is people who have some familiarity, who are semi-technical readers, but who have tried to do the task, whatever that task is, and they have become frustrated because they couldn't get it to work. And so you've got to factor in how frustrated the reader is, and therefore how fast they want the information and how clear they want it to be, so that they can just run through the manual, find what they need, and get to their desired result. So bear in mind that your audience may be frustrated. Not everybody's a lay person. If you're writing for an expert audience, make sure you're ethically obligated to understand that you need to be an expert too. There are issues of ethics and safety obviously to consider. You don't want to write a manual for performing surgery if you're not a surgeon. And this should probably go without saying, but lots of people think they kind of know how to do things, but they might not want to write an actual instruction manual on how to do it. People who are experts often assume a high degree of familiarity with the products and write lame instructions. Once upon a time, I wrote plumbing manuals when I didn't know very much about plumbing, and I did not realize that the people who might be using the manual could sue me in addition to suing the publishing company. Fortunately, they're out of print now, but this was something that I learned the hard way. So, if in the course of your career you're ever asked to write instructions for something that you don't know well how to do, and people could potentially get hurt, you're obligated to say no, which is something that I learned, again, the hard way. Okay, let's talk about format. We know that format and content are the two primary things we have to think about each time we construct a new technical document, and here are some things that you need to know. For the format, you want to list supplies and parts needed first, then any wordings that you have to know up front, followed by clear numbered steps that start at the beginning and proceed to the end, and diagrams and visuals where necessary, followed by a troubleshooting or frequently asked questions section. The only thing that should come in addition to this is, before you list the supplies, a title that tells people what the instructions are actually for. A list of supplies, especially if you're writing for a semi-technical audience or a lay audience, and they may be things that are not very clear, might be accompanied by visuals like this one. Cautions and warnings. Think back to document design and all that we learned about making people actually focus on certain parts of a page. One of the ways we do that is by using contrasting colors. You want to place warnings prominently at the beginning of your document and use contrasting colors and shapes to be sure that the reader will see those cautions and warnings. The typical caution color, as you can see here, is yellow with black. When you write the text for instructions, you want to use simple, plain language with active verbs phrased in the active voice, and you want to phrase steps affirmatively, use transition words to show the sequence of things, and then make each step separate, even if it's really quite simple. And this is the greater clarity will be needed depending on the level of technicality of the reader. So that means taking your audience into account. Simple language, here's an example. On the right-hand side, commence rotation of the upper portion after lower segment has received adequate pummeling, versus first pound the bottom of the ketchup bottle, then twist the cap off. I think it's clear what we mean by simple language here. active verbs in the active voice. The seatbelt should be fastened, the mirror should be adjusted, and the key should be in the ignition. That's all in the passive voice. Should be, should be, should be. Whereas what you really want is fasten your seatbelt, adjust your mirrors, turn the key in the ignition. These are your actual steps. Rather than telling people what not to do, such as don't leave the baby unattended, don't leave the baby in the crib, don't let clothing make the baby uncomfortable, you want to phrase things affirmatively. Stay with the baby, pick up the baby, remove any uncomfortable. Use transition words to show the order of events. So, rather than your child's mask shouldn't be put on first, yours should. That way you can do theirs later since you're the adult. You want to say first, place the air mask over your own face. Next, secure the other air mask for your child. Finally, breathe deeply and relax. First, next, and finally are sequence transition words. Make each step separate. Obviously, this one is intended for a lay audience. Just saying call the police is not going to be very helpful, especially if you're talking to perhaps an audience of international people and the sign is being posted in a hotel, for example. Instead, it makes more sense to say, first pick up the telephone receiver, next listen for a dial tone, then dial 911. Those are the actual steps that are involved in calling the police. And again, this will be different depending on the level of technicality of your reader. There's some supplemental information that should go with every set of instructions. This will be a frequently asked question or troubleshooting guide. You want to handle all the important or common problems that would come with these kinds of instructions. And one way to figure out what kinds of problems people come up with is testing your instructions out on people who don't know how to do the activity yet, so that they can ask you questions as they go along, and then you can help put those into a troubleshooting or frequently asked questions guide. One way to write a troubleshooting section is to use a table with specific problems on the left, like the monitor is blank, with suggested remedies on the right, such as, are there any lights showing on the front of the monitor? If yes, check the video cable. If no, check the power cords. If the problem persists, go to the authorized repair center, and so on. Organize your table so that the most common problems come first and the solutions come in a similar. Have a look at some of these WikiHow examples that we've put up here, or just go to WikiHow and put in and see what some of the main ones are that come up. You can see some things that work and some things that really don't, and you can think about how you might improve these instructions. WikiHow follows a very typical format, and it doesn't always include the supplies or warnings at the top, which is a problem just of the actual software. But think about the way that people are phrasing their steps. Are they jamming too many things into one step? Are they making assumptions about their audience, and so on? Take time to check out these links. Okay, so now it's time to write your own instructions. If you're using Technical Communications 11, which you should be, there's this checklist on page 561 that will help you with your instructions.